She brought it up nearly every time we saw my parents, and it quickly turned from joking to explaining how it made her uncomfortable and that I shouldn't feel like I have to call my dad that. I explained on multiple occasions that I didn't feel like I strictly had to call him sir, and that it wasn't something that I was punished for not doing as a child or anything, it was just how things were. I call everyone I interacted with sir or ma'am, from my 4-year-old cousin to any adult I speak with. She just didn't seem to get it. I understand that isn't really a thing where she's from, but that's just how things are down here. Things came to a bit of a head a few days ago when we had dinner at my parents', and as usual, I called my father sir, no different than any time I was with him. I noticed my girlfriend was a little quiet at dinner, but I didn't think much of it since sometimes she is on the quieter side. However, when we got in the car afterward, she started talking about how I call my dad sir yet again. She explained that it made her uncomfortable because that is a title used for someone who has authority over you. She used the example as in the bedroom, and I shouldn't believe my father has any sort of control over me. I explained that I respected my father as he raised me to be the person I am today, the same with my mom, and once again tried to say that it was little more than a cultural difference between the two of us. I'm not sure exactly what set her off, but she went off about how it made it sound like me and my father had a weird relationship and that it sounded like a fetish. I'll admit, I got angry when she said that, but I did my best to not overreact. I asked her if she felt the same way about me calling my mother ma'am and she said no. In the end she asked that I never call my dad sir, around her or not, and that if I did I was disrespecting her boundaries. I said plain and simple that I was not going to stop calling him sir and she got silent and is not speaking to me. I honestly don't see how I might be the asshole here, but I want to hear from other people. If I'm truly in the wrong I will do my very best to fix it and do better. Update 1. First, some things to clarify. I not only call my dad sir, but pretty much every male in my life, place in our bedroom life, we use titles. From young children I work with to homeless people on the street. The same goes with calling females ma'am. It is just my father. My girlfriend has a problem with me calling sir, no other males. Anyway, I've tried several times over the past week to speak with my girlfriend about what went down, but she refused to talk for the most part and I wasn't going to push her. It wasn't until tonight that I finally got a chance to sit down and have a real conversation with her. I read every single comment my original post got, and asked her about several things. Someone suggested I ask if she had been any example of my father trying to control me in any way. This got her worked up and she walked away from the conversation for a little while, claiming I was trying to attack her. I gave her time to calm down and was honestly surprised when she returned to the conversation. She explained to me that it wasn't that she had seen specific things with my father trying to control me, but rather an undertone that I was in his control. I asked what she meant, but she didn't really have any other explanation beyond that. I honestly don't know what undertone she was talking about. I respect my father and his knowledge and experience beyond mine, but I am a grown adult. I live and think independently and am perfectly capable of making my own decisions. I've occasionally asked for my father's advice on things since we'd be together. Life advice, not relationship, and that may be what she's talking about, but I'm not sure. Another thing people brought up was the possibility of her having trauma around the title. I asked her outright if she had been through anything like that and that if that was the case I would not hesitate to call my father something else to avoid triggering her. She said no, that she hadn't been through anything like that, and I obviously believe her. That isn't something she would be dishonest about. However, my offer to stop saying it if it was triggering her did the opposite of what I had hoped. She blew up at me, screaming that if I could stop because she was triggered, then why couldn't I stop just because she didn't like it? I tried to stay calm and explain that being weirded out by something is nothing close to having traumatic thoughts triggered, but she just kept going. In her yelling she mentioned her boundary again, and that I was being toxic. At this point I could feel myself getting angry and said we could finish the conversation another time. She stormed out, and I haven't spoken to her at all for the past several hours. Update 2. My girlfriend returned to our home the morning but didn't want to talk, but I didn't mind cause it gave me more time to think. Eventually I told her we needed to sit down and have a real conversation, no yelling, no accusations, and if she did either of those things I would be pausing the conversation. She wasn't happy but she agreed to it. I asked her again about trauma, more specifically her relationship with her father. I've interacted with her father many times and haven't noticed anything, but not all things are easily noticeable, so I asked anyway. She said that I was projected my own issues with my father, which I don't have, onto her, and I can't comprehend an appropriate and respectful relationship between father and daughter. I did my best to not react to this and moved on. We talked in circles for a long time about everything that happened, and she eventually yelled out that she didn't feel respected in our relationship, that her telling me the first time that me calling my father sir made her uncomfortable, that should have been the end of it, that I shouldn't be prioritizing something as stupid as what I call my father over her, and that if I didn't stop she would be breaking up with me. She also mentioned she didn't like how often we went to see my family, 5-ish times a month. That worried me and I asked her if she felt unwelcome or anything around my family and she said no, but talked about how I am an adult who needs to live my own life and once again brought up breaking up with her if I didn't change things. I ended the conversation when it didn't seem like she had anything else to say, and she said I needed to do some thinking. I thought for a while and finally have made the decision to break things off with her. It's not an easy decision, and I still feel a little ridiculous for breaking it off over something so little as this, but I've come to realize that it's not just that. If this is the kind of person she is going to be, and how she was going to go about conflict, I think it's best if I'm no longer with her. I haven't had a conversation with her about that yet, but I know I need to soon. I sometimes struggle to put my thoughts together the right way, so any advice on how to approach that without setting her off again would be appreciated.